Ich hoffe, ihr seid alle
Good evening, dear men. I hope you have rejoined us again. We are eager to listen to our next guest. He's one of those who have played it big. No More Mr. Nice Guy. That was the title of his book. He established a men's movement with this book. He also coined a term, the nice guy syndrome. We are so happy that he have agreed to be with us next year. He planned to be with us this year, but then he said, if I cannot come, I will at least join you through the digital format. And that's why I'm so utterly happy.
Yes, wonderful.
Now that I speak, I show up on the screen, right?
Fantastic. Yes. Gentlemen, fellas, here he is, Dr. Robert Glover himself. No More Mr. Nice Guy, a toolkit for the future of men.
All right, John, thanks for the introduction. And gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to be with you. You guys have had an amazing weekend. I've got Zoom on the gallery view, and I'm scrolling through. A lot of you have your cameras on, a lot of you don't. Man, but just the beauty of seeing all of you guys, that lights me up. It lights me up. This is what excites me. This is what my life is about. This is what my passion is. And I'm so grateful to be invited to be a part of your tribe. We're going to talk about tribe today. So thank you for the invitation. I like where I see several of you in a room together, doing this together as a group. How cool is that? Now, I also realize that for many of you, English may not be your first language. One of the things I love about Europeans is how bilingual culturally most of you are. And so I appreciate you letting me speak in my first language. And you guys will all make the best of that. So I've got an hour and 15 minutes. I want to leave at least 30 minutes for Q&A at the end of this. I love Q&A. I love answering men's questions. The way I think we're going to do this is that you can write questions into the chat box, and I'd say do that at any time you want. The moderators are going to be monitoring those questions. And then, like I said, I'll try to give at least 30 minutes to answer questions, maybe more. I'd like to give you more. It just depends on how long-winded I get or how long it takes me to make this introduction. So in your questions, here's my preference to two things. Number one, two or three things. Get to the point quickly. The question doesn't need to be this long. We men can be kind of wordy. Get to the point. Second, my preference is that your questions be as practical as possible. We men love the theoretical. We love talking about ideas. We love comparing and contrasting, and we love being in our heads. And that's fine. I'm a guy. I love being in my head too. But when it comes to answering questions, I have the most fun if they're practical questions, if they relate to your life, where you're stuck, what you don't understand, what do you keep repeating that isn't working for you? What are you searching for that you're having a challenge to find? Rather than, oh, Robert, could you compare and contrast this theory from that movement with this thing? That doesn't excite me. So write your questions in. John and his team will be monitoring those. I'm just going to dive in with this. And I've got to say, I logged in a little bit earlier this morning, my time. I'm on the Pacific. I'm in California, Malibu, California, right this moment. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Listening to Paul's presentation, I'm thinking, damn, he and I are giving the same presentation. But he did it so elegantly with great slides. I love the dark horse, the light horse, the charioteer. And man, just what a breadth and scope of knowledge and awareness of men's work. So I was thrilled to tune in to Paul and here. So we're going to be talking. I'm going to talk about a lot of the same things that Paul was talking about, but I'm just going to talk about it from my perspective. I think you probably see overlap, and you'll see where we've all gone in our own little way as well. So my topic is no more Mr. Nice Guy. We're just going to wave at no more Mr. Nice Guy and move on to the future of men's work, future of men's movement. Now, I'm going to tell you, I like to tell stories. I'm going to tell you a story. When in 2003, February 2003, when No More Mr. Nice Guy, there's the wave at No More Mr. Nice Guy, came out in print, my publisher sent me on a book tour, about a 2-week book tour across North America, several big cities. I did a lot of interviews with local media, some with national media in the US. And the one question I got asked the most by reporters was, did I see a worldwide men's movement happening? And usually likening that to the women's movement. And my typical response at that time, so we're talking almost 20 years ago, my response was, I didn't really think so. I didn't see it happening. I'd been involved in men's work, maybe for my own men's work for at least 10 years at that time. And I couldn't see one overriding, compelling, driving force to push men to unify around one thing, as feminism tended to have. It had 2 or 3 core pieces that women worldwide could unify and solidify around. I didn't see that happening for men. Maybe the closest thing I could see to it was men's divorce issues and parents' rights issues while going through divorce, because that's a pretty hot topic for many of us men. But I didn't see that being a worldwide driver. Okay, fast forward 18, 19 years. I was right in some way. There is no one unifying factor, but yet I'm going to contradict myself. I think there is, maybe. And I do see a worldwide men's movement. A lot of this driven by the internet, which for good or bad is a force of nature. And I'm going to tell you in a minute what I think that unifying force is and what is happening and how it's manifesting for men worldwide. So I'm going to back up just a little bit. I started my own, what I'll just call my own personal recovery, my nice guy recovery, my recovering myself as a man over 25 years ago. And it began around relationship issues. I had acted out sexually in my second marriage, and my then wife said to me, you need help. I can't put up with this anymore. And so I went seeking help, mainly to get my wife off my back. I thought, I'm not the one that needs help. I'm a nice guy. I do everything well. I treat you well. I treat you better than your ex. I'm raising your kids. I'm not like those jerks out there. And I thought, you're the one who needs help. You're the one that's unhappy all the time and angry, never wants to have sex anymore. And but I wanted to stay married, so I went searching. And I landed in a 12-step group for sex addicts. And I quickly found out I wasn't a sex addict. I wasn't having enough sex to qualify as a sex addict. But I landed in a group that was all men that had some pretty hardcore stuff going on in their lives. And they were seriously working on that in the context of other men. I loved it. I loved it. I'd grown up in a fundamental Christian church. I don't know if many of you come out of fundamental Christian backgrounds, but there's kind of a golden rule in fundamental religion of almost any sort. And that is, don't reveal yourself. Don't be seen. Look like you're doing it all right. And so I'd done that. I had a critical father. So, I was always hiding anything that might trigger negativity. I grew up during the angry feminism of the 60s and 70s. And so, I didn't want to be those bad men. I heard women, every man's a rapist and aggression's a sign, an erection's a sign of aggression. I heard that stuff. And I heard my mother teaching me. She was raising her sons to be different from our father. And so, I presented this good front everywhere I went. I'm doing it right. Look, I got the PhD. Yeah, look at me. I'm being good to my wife. I'm raising my kids. But I wasn't real. I wasn't authentic. I had so many things that I didn't even look at inside me that I kept them so locked down. So I go to this 12-step group, and I met at 6 a.m. in the morning once a week. And I looked forward to getting up and going, because for the first time in my life, I started sharing things about me that I'd never shared. And it felt so liberating. And to just have a group of men say, Thanks for sharing, Robert. And nobody freak out. Nobody think I was an evil person. And also at this time, I started working with a female therapist. And same thing. I got to where I could just start opening up and revealing. Then I joined a men's group led by another female therapist around sexual shame. And I stayed in that group for 4 or 5 years. So I did the bulk of what I call my nice guy recovery in men's programs. When I was in private practice up until about 8-10 years ago, when I moved to Mexico, I was leading 5 men's groups a week. I'm 65 years old. I'm still in a men's program. I joined another program about 4 years ago with my coach, John Wineland. And I'm just a believer of this. So when I started my search, there were not a lot of options. I really appreciated Paul kind of doing an overview of some of these threads of men's work. And I had a discussion with a group. I'm at a men's retreat myself right now. I had a discussion with a group of guys just this weekend about doing a men's movement genome project. They could trace all the different threads and influences in men's work, and where every guy who identifies himself as a men's worker today could fit in that tree somewhere. Okay. Now, when I started this, there wasn't much available. Paul already mentioned some of the options. There was a mythopoetic movement. I did some of the going out into the woods with a talking stick and beating a drum and saying ho. There's some good parts about that, but it was fairly limited in its approach. Another part of my personal recovery was 12-step group. Another part of it was going to therapy and joining a men's group. But there weren't a lot of options. The internet was in its infancy. About all it was really used for at that time was watching really bad porn at really slow download speeds and stealing music on Napster. That's really about all the internet was good for at that time. So there were not a lot of options for finding work. You guys had Warren Farrell. I remember must have been like late 1980s, early 90s, reading The Myth of Male Power. And I'm reading this and I'm talking to my then wife, and I'm basically saying, how the fuck did this book get published? How did this get past the feminist censors out there that said you cannot say, anything good about men or anything that might appear to be negative about women? And even when I was shopping No More Mr. Nice Guy to publishers, a lot of editors, mostly women, were saying, Robert, we like your books, good book. And our marketing department says men will not buy a self-help book. I said, you don't understand. You don't understand the men I'm writing to and the men that are out there. And Amazon didn't exist at that time. I'm pretty sure not quite yet. And so there just wasn't a lot there. So I think thanks to the internet, thanks to just a lot of good men that have started doing their own work, I believe there truly is a worldwide men's movement, but here's my twist on it. Okay, here's my twist on what that is. I believe that there are many portals into men's work. And I was having this discussion with a group of guys this weekend as well. And part of it, kind of going back to Paul's talk, is, where's the hierarchy and what are the values and how inclusive should this be? We're having those same kind of discussions. But for example, there's just a few portals in my mind into men's work. Could be a 12-step program. That's how I got started. A man starting to work on his addiction. It might be martial arts. Maybe a man wants to just go, he thinks Brazilian jiu-jitsu looks cool or karate looks cool. It might be a church Bible study for men. He's wanting to go deeper into the word and go join this Bible study. It might be a divorce support group for a guy going through a breakup in his marriage. It might be a pickup boot camp where a man's wanting to learn how to talk to women, right? It might be a men's therapy group. Again, that's one way I went. It might be a no-fap porn recovery group. It might be an online forum of red pill, incel, MGTOW. I think a lot of times we don't think of those as men's work or men's movement, but I'm going to tell you where I think that we're all connected in this way. Could be, wilderness retreats, vision quest, tantra, yogic. My theory is, my preface is that in all of these ways where we go searching, whether it be martial arts or a 12-step program or a dating pickup boot camp, what we men are really searching for is tribe and initiation. And so, for example, the guy that goes to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu wants to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he stays with it because he's in a group of men that he's tussling with. You know, the guy that goes to a pickup boot camp, he's going because he wants to learn how to pick up hot women. And then he finds out here's a group of guys that are just like him, who have the same fears and anxieties, and they work together and they challenge themselves. And all of a sudden, he's got tribe, right? And all of a sudden, picking up women doesn't seem even all that important, but being with his tribe does. Okay. And again, it might even be, men going into, forums online, again, whether it be like incels or MGTOW or NoFap or Red Pill. And maybe they're going in angry, but what they find is tribe, a connection with other men. Now, again, all of these different portals have certain values to them, and some of them maybe are not actually all that healthy for us men. Again, there's the value structure that we might could put on it. But I think the core piece underneath all of that is a search for tribe and initiation, because being with men, connecting with men, working with men is tied into our evolutionary DNA. It's epigenetic. 1.5 million years, our ancestors did everything in tribe. They hunted together, they gathered together, they fought together, they fucked together, they learned about the feminine and Mother Nature and the gods and women, and they did it in the context of tribe. Now, even when we quit being quite so tribal, say around 10,000 years ago, and started moving more and owning stuff, owning a piece of land, owning a cow, owning a tree, owning your wife, owning your kids, the beginning really of the patriarchy around 10,000 years ago. Even then, boys grew up around their dads, their grandpas, their uncles, their cousins. Men were initiated by men. And most of you probably have read Iron John. He talks about masculine initiation in tribal cultures there, and how it's important for the men to come, take the young boys, pull them away from the women, pull them out of the nursery, as I call it, and take them out and initiate them into the scary world of the masculine. And my core definition, basically, of initiation is learning to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That means facing our fear of dying, facing our fear of being annihilated, facing our fear of being embarrassed, being rejected, being foolish, of failing, of having pain. It doesn't matter what it is. Initiation in the context of men, of initiated men, can take us through those fearful portals and help us see what we can be, how we can penetrate the world. And we don't have to do it alone. And so I really believe what we're searching for, and I think probably why most of us are on this call right now, is that we are looking for that tribal connection with other men, often whom we have shared values with, shared intention, shared purpose, shared direction. And I just want to put just a big exclamation mark on how important this is. And I'm going to talk more about what we can get out of tribe and connection with men. But I want you guys just to think for a moment, okay? What really began your process or journey that landed you here right now in this moment on a call with a bunch of other men? What got that started? What were you looking for? Was it you're going through a difficult time? Was it that you just picked up a book that got your attention? And just be thinking about this. I mean, maybe we can come back to this in some of the questions. And did you know at that time what it was you were really looking for? Did you know that beneath it all, the emptiness inside, the thing you were struggling with, maybe had to do with lack of connection with the masculine, with a male tribe? And fortunately, what you were originally looking for, again, it could be 12-step recovery. It could be wanting to learn how to pick up women. Did you realize that it was going to lead you to connection with men? So just ponder that. We're all here. We all got here in some interesting journey. I've got my journey. Every one of you has your journey. And again, my key point is it probably began over here looking for something, right? and ended up over here where you maybe have moved on past that, something you were looking for. Maybe you're going through divorce. Maybe that was years ago. You've moved past it, but you realized you need to stay connected with tribe. And as I mentioned, I'm 65 years old. And about 4 years ago, I just realized I need more men in my life. I was living in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, kind of a fish out of water culturally, married to a Mexican woman. She doesn't speak English, so I have to learn Spanish, which is great. I love it. Raising a couple of kids again. I have stepkids the same age as my granddaughter. Disconnected from masculine connection, and really just in a feminine world. And I just realized I needed men, and I started putting that out in the world. And then somebody attending one of my workshops told me about the coach who I now have, John Wineland, and his men's programs. I'm in his house right now with another small group. And so for 4 years, I've just been swimming and loving being in the context of men. And my wife, fairly traditional, stereotypical, jealous Latina, who her view of when men get together is because they're going out to drink and pick up putas. And I don't know if puta translates into other language, but that's what men do when men get together. And it's been really beautiful for my wife to get to know my coach, John Wineland, to get to know many of the men I work with. Many have come and been in my home. Many of she's gotten to talk to on Zoom. And my wife loves that I'm here working with men. I'll go away for a week, and it's painful for my wife to not have my presence for a week, but she knows the value of what happens when I go spend time with men and go deep with men, and how I come back. I'm more open-hearted. I'm more conscious. I'm more grounded. I'm more present. I'm more loving. I fuck her more. She just knows that me being with men is going to be a good thing. Okay, that's tribe. So what I want to do is share a little context of what we can use our tribes for.
Ja, ich möchte jetzt einmal kurz darlegen, wozu wir unsere Stimme.
And then if we have time, I want to share maybe a little bit of a controversial idea, just an idea I want to share with you. We'll see if we have time. I like to just tee things up for you. Okay, I was on a call in my men's program a few months ago with David Data. And the theme of the call that we were having was men's groups. How do you lead men's groups? And all the way from how do you start them, how do you fill them, what do you do once you're in a men's group, how do you manage them, and all those kinds of things. And I've been leading men's groups for 20 plus years. I've been in men's groups, and but Data shared 3 things about men's work that just, for me, it was just so clear, and it just gave such a great container for what we men are seeking and what we can get out of our work with men. So I'm going to apply these 3 things to just tribe, to any of our gathering and connecting with men of what we get out of them. So Data said one reason men come to work with other men is to be challenged. He said, we need to have our feet held to the fire. I believe that for the masculine, what activates us most is challenge. And what fulfills us most is masterfully meeting challenge. Now, again, our ancestors did not do this solo. There is no room for lone wolves in the evolutionary scheme of things. Lone wolves died. They not only, going alone, they got eaten by something, but they didn't get to pass on that genetic tendency. Our ancestry is doing this together with other men. So we're activated by challenge as if we identify ourselves more kind of energetically as masculine. Masculine does, masculine penetrates, masculine desires to penetrate the world masterfully. That's the masculine bliss, is to know, damn, you hit it out of the park. You did a good job. You got it done. You did something difficult. You did something you've been putting off, and you just got it done and got through it. Now, we men might have pretty high aspirations. We're going to talk at the end of this conversation how you move this forward with you as you go on. And I know Paul talked about that some as well. What do you do with this after you leave the rush of this weekend? That's where we need tribe. Now, I've published books. I own a home that's paid for. I have no debt. I have a good life. And I can't do that by myself. None of this happened in isolation. And I mentioned me joining a men's program 4 years ago. And out of that, for example, I've created mini tribes to hold me accountable. I need accountability. I need my masculine initiation. I need my men saying, this is challenging. This is uncomfortable. You're going to get distracted. You're going to procrastinate. But we're here to keep you on track, masterfully penetrating this thing you focused on. So, for example, about 3.5 years ago, I formed a group, just called an accountability group, with 6 other guys. And our plan is to meet together for our lifetimes. And we get on Zoom every 2 weeks for 90 minutes and just talk about where we're at in life, where we need support, where we need to be challenged, where we need accountability primarily. And we do that for each other. And we know each other well, so we can really hold another man accountable. We can really hold their feet to the fire. I also have a writers support group. And that's actually what I'm doing this weekend. When I first started the program with John Wineland, I said, hey, I want to write 10 books in 10 years. Anybody want to be part of a writer's accountability group? I love writing, but I get distracted. I get off track. I need focus. So I started a writer's accountability group, and it's evolved. But now it's evolved into once a year or twice a year. We go either to my house in Mexico. This weekend, we're at John Wineland's house in Malibu. 5 other guys, we're writing. We're masterminding. We're holding each other accountable. After each person in the mastermind, all right, what is the structure that we're going to hold you accountable for? All right. We need that from other men. Every morning, I'm on Zoom for 2 hours writing. I start at 9 a.m. my time where I live, and there's a group of other men that, it's a loose container, but they come write. We don't talk to each other. We're just on Zoom writing. Right? That is accountability. If you don't have that accountability, I don't need to do this today. I'm distracted. But if you think, I'm going to let my brothers down, and they're going to wonder, you go do it. You get online, you do the work. At 65 years old, I need to take care of myself, take care of my body. And I value exercise and I value eating well, but I'm not a gym rat. My wife's a gym rat. She's happy to go work out for 2 hours. It's her therapy. If she doesn't do it, she's miserable. Me, I can miss a workout tomorrow. So I started an exercise accountability group about 3 years ago. And this is about 6 or 7 guys. Every day on text, we text what's our intention that day in terms of exercise. And then we check in. Did we do it or not? Right? That's been going on for 3 years. And I need that. And I believe we men need that. We need our accountability systems. We need clear containers of how we're going to go about doing what's important to us. And part of effectively following through is to have our teams, to have our tribes, to have our guys there with us to hold us accountable. Now, as I look at kind of the state of man today, at least where I see it in North America, is that the term I use is that a lot of men have never gotten out of the nursery. That was true for me into my mid-30s. I'd never gotten out of the nursery. I wasn't doing things that scared me. I wasn't doing things that were too hard. Nowadays, especially young men, I've got a 35, almost 36-year-old son, and I see a lot of men his age, the Generation X, millennial, not so much X, X, millennials, whatever's come after millennials. They grew up with the internet, social media. I think social media is extremely feminizing. When was the last time social media motivated you to go penetrate the world masterfully? We get caught up. Oh, look, he's got that hot girlfriend. Oh, she's cute. Oh, look how many friends they got. Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that life. That's all feminizing. It's external validation, and there's no challenge to it. You can sit and look at Instagram and Facebook for hours. You can sit and watch YouTube for hours, and it does nothing to improve you or improve the world. So a lot of men have grown up with that, and the nursery, I see a lot of men hanging out in, and some combination of no real purpose or passion in life, smoking dope, drinking, surfing the internet for shit you don't need. Every time you go to the bathroom or you got a moment, you're scrolling through your phone, pornography, masturbation, video games, hanging out with women that there's absolutely no potential you're going to have sex with them, to where now sexless relationships with women starts feeling normal. But they approve of you because you're nice and soft and you listen to them talk about their problems. That's all nursery behavior, because boys have not had masculine men, conscious men, to show them the way out of the nursery, again, into that scary world of the masculine, and to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. So most of us, believe it or not, whether we're aware of it or not, are actually drawn to tribe because we're just so fucking sick and tired of being in the nursery. We don't know that our compulsive masturbation and looking at porn is a nursery or initiation related issue. We don't know that surfing the internet mindlessly, surfing social media mindlessly, drinking too much, smoking too much pot, having dumb intellectual conversations on online forums. We don't get that that's nursery, but I call that junk food pseudo feminine. Oh, it kind of makes us feel good for a little while, but it never fills us or satisfies us or sharpens us or activates us. So that's one role we need from tribe. We need from our brothers. We need men in our life to hold us accountable, to keep us moving forward, to call us on our bullshit when we're just mailing it in or just sitting around jerking off, wasting time. We need men to help challenge us in that way. Now, but that's not all we need men for. I mean, I've been in programs that they're just about challenge. And after a while you go, wait a minute, this isn't actually fulfilling either, just to be challenged 24/7. So data said a second thing that men are attracted to men's group or men's work for is to be held. And this is so true. And this is maybe a way that many of you got into the men's work that you're doing now. Maybe you were lost and lonely. Maybe you couldn't find love. Maybe you were going through a difficult time in a relationship. Maybe you're going through a breakup or divorce. Maybe you're trying to get sober from something that was controlling your life. You were in pain. And we do experience pain. Life is painful. And so in that pain, you went seeking for something. Right? Many of you did that. And that was true for me. I was going through a real difficult time in my marriage, and I went seeking for something. So in the company of men, we can be held, we can be supported, we can be loved on, without the judgment that we tend to usually get from women, or that we're afraid we're going to get from women. With men, we can go be vulnerable, we can expose ourselves, and if we find a safe tribe of men, we realize there's no judgment. Because here's the thing, one of the beautiful things about any men's work is finding out you're not alone. You're not terminally unique. You're not the only one that struggles with this thing. I mean, it's so liberating in a group of men when one guy kind of shamefully, acknowledges his obsession with porn, and 80% of the guys in the group, however big the group is, doesn't matter. 80% of them go, yeah, me too, brother. And all of a sudden you go, oh, you mean I'm not terminally unique? I'm not uniquely fucked up. I'm not the only one. And to find out you're not alone, and to be held by other men who have struggled with, or who are struggling with what you struggle with, that is so rich. And we need that. We have to have it. Okay. A third thing the data said is that men are attracted to men's work or men's groups, or I'm going to say tribe, to be. And I remember when he said that, I'm going, yeah, that's me. Because at 65 years old, like I said, I just need to be with men. I just need to be around men. And I'm talking in a minute about masculine love. I just need to be connected to men. I just need to be with men with no agenda, and just experience that connection and the depth and the love, and just be. Okay. Most of us men, like I said, nowadays, we go seeking connection and being from feminine realities. Right? If we're lonely, we go seek a woman. If we're sad, we go seek a woman. Or we go seek those pseudo-feminine things like porn or junk food or internet or television. We go seek it over there. But to just be in the company of men, it is so amazingly powerful. Now, you guys have had this great experience this weekend. Like I said, I'm at this writer's retreat, 5 other guys, And we have done all of these three things in one way or another. Challenge. We've all had we have some structure of when we're going to get up and write at 7 o'clock every morning, right again in the afternoon. The challenge of when we share our masterminds, other people say, all right, what's your commitment? How much are you going to write? How often? How many pages? What's your commitment? So there's accountability in there. Also in the challenge, we've gone hiking in the mountains. We've jumped in the ocean at least 3 or 4 times. Every hour on the hour, I have this little routine because I sit a lot. I get up and do a minute worth of exercise, a minute of push-ups, a minute of squats, a minute of planks. So I've been challenging these guys every hour. All right, on the floor. I did planks just before I got on this call. Challenge. So that's been going on. This weekend also, there's been holding and nurturing. At least 2 of the guys are going through painful things in the relationship. That's not the reason we came this weekend to talk about those painful things. We came to write and support each other. But men have been there to hear and listen and support and share our own experiences of going through similar painful times in relationship. So we're holding each other, we're loving each other. And then just being with each other. And it's so beautiful because, like, okay, part of the time we're sitting writing for 2 hours. Then maybe we're going for a hike to be together. Maybe we're going to go jump in the ocean to be together. We've cooked all our meals here. So that means 5 guys working together, cooking fantastic meals. We've just eaten like kings, sitting on a balcony looking at the ocean, right? Just doing, and then cleaning up together. And then, other things where we hold each other accountable, like all these things together. Last night, one of the guys here is a big UFC fight fan. We all got together in a bedroom with a big TV and watched the UFC fights together. And I made 2 big pans of stovetop popcorn, cooking like my mom used to. And, it's just guys being guys, even watching guys beating on each other. And even I'm not a big UFC fan, but there's one guy here, every time I get with him, I've watched UFC, that even just watching these men that are driving themselves to be their best and go man against man, not holding anything back. And then when it's over, they hug each other. One guy, this young Mexican guy, won a world championship last night. The other guy lifted him up and held him up while this crowd shouting "Viva Mexico!" So so we're all watching this and talking, and that must have hurt. It's just guys being guys with guys. And it is so fulfilling. And I promise you, like I already said, those of us who are in relationship with women, those who aren't, we will leave here. You guys are going to leave your weekend being sharpened, being filled, being focused, being supported. And you're going to go make a difference in the world. You're going to penetrate the world. You're going to penetrate the woman in your life, or penetrate women in general. With this open-heartedness, this consciousness, this fierceness, your darkness, your lightness, your dark horse and your light horse. You'll be able to integrate those and bring them all because you've spent this time with men. So, yeah, this is good timing. So here, I want to ask you guys a couple questions, and then I'm going to open it up. You guys can ask me questions. And our challenge, this is, I think, the last talk of the weekend, right? So here's the challenge going forward. And we can talk about this a little bit right now. After I jump off the call, there might be a little more time where you guys process this. So you guys, the majority of you, I assume, have been together for a couple of days. Maybe some of you just came in for a few hours, maybe for one day. But my hunch is that you are not the same person you were 48 hours ago. Something about you has experienced some kind of shift. Maybe you feel more passionate. Maybe you feel more direction. Maybe you feel more open-hearted. Maybe you feel more supported. Okay. So moving forward, here's some questions, and just ponder these, right? I'm not saying give me answers to this, but I want you to ponder this moving forward. Where can you find and access more tribe in your life? Where can you find and access more tribe in your life? Another question is, how can you create tribe and invite other men to join you? This writer's retreat I'm on this weekend began really 3 years ago when I invited, 4 or 5 guys to come down to my house in Mexico. Asked my wife, I said, would you be okay if I bring a bunch of guys? You take the kids to Guadalajara. I got the house for a weekend. And she goes, what are you guys going to do? You're going to go pick up putas? No, we're going to write. And so that began. I did it again. Last year we didn't because of COVID. And then my coach said, well, let's do one, in June. I usually do them in December. Let's do one at my house in Malibu. I got a new house. I want to entertain you guys there. I created this little tribe, and it's taken on a life of its own. Okay. How can you create tribe and invite other men to join you? Another question, where are you still hanging out in the nursery? Where do you go for junk food, pseudo-feminine distraction? Where are you seeking external validation from women? Where are you trying to please the woman in your life? Where are you wasting time? Where are you less than sharp? Where are you less than purposeful? Now, I'm a big fan of wasting time, but I'm a big fan of doing it purposefully and consciously. We need to waste time. But if we're just wasting time unconsciously, it's killing our masculine soul. Another question, what kind of initiation do you need in your life? We all have fears. That's part of being human, part of being male. There's scary stuff out there, right? Where do you need initiation? Where do you need men to hold you and support you and lead you through initiation to help you face your fears? I want you to be thinking about that. And how will you take advantage of the tribe you've been a part of this weekend as you move forward? There's 77 people, it says here on Zoom. There's got to be a few people that live near you. I mean, you guys are spread out from all over, but there's got to be some people. If you're from Denmark, there's got to be some guys from Denmark. If you're in Germany, there's a bunch of guys from Germany. And with Zoom, it doesn't matter. How can you use this group of people to move you forward? All right, we got 30 minutes left. I'm going to throw out that thing I said that I might or might not throw out. A little bit of maybe a controversial thing. But the more I just keep sharing it, talking about it, the more validation I keep getting that maybe this is right on track. So without going too deep in any of this, if we go back to kind of a yin and yang mentality of masculine, feminine. Now, I want you to hear, I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about masculine, feminine energies. If you break it down, the yang is always seen, the masculine is seen as doing, right? And again, David Data has a real similar model that, the masculine penetrates, not just men, but the masculine. We all have a masculine and feminine parts to ourselves. And I'm going to really hone in on that for a minute. So the masculine does. And the feminine in the yin is receptive, right? So we all have a side of us that the masculine, yang, doing, penetrating side. And we all have a feminine, yin, receptive, being done to, being penetrated side. Okay, my theory, it is the feminine in us that is the seeker of love, that it seeks to be filled with love and connection. That's our feminine side. Now, this is the part that might, some people might go, wait, but I believe the masculine, not men per se, but the masculine, that's going to be a man or a woman. The masculine is the source of love that fulfills the feminine desire to receive love. Now, why I go with this, if you think about it, if the masculine energetically is doing, is intentional, right? That is what love is. You think about what is love? Not just a feeling. It's not just, oh, I think she's hot, or, I want her to have sex with me, or I want her to like me. It's not love. Love is intentional and action, is will and action. Those are masculine traits. Those are doing traits. Now, there's a definition of love that I really like. Maybe you guys have run across it. It's from the book, The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck. And I've heard that that's the best, all-time best-selling self-help book. And his definition of love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. Now, the key pieces there, the will, right, that's intention. That's masculine. To extend oneself, that's action, that's purpose, that's doing. For the purpose of nurturing one's own, that's your masculine, nurturing your feminine, or you nurturing, giving, fulfilling the feminine outside of you. Could be a woman, your wife, your kids, the world in general. for yours or the other spiritual growth. Now, we can just call spiritual growth personal development, well-being, best self, whatever. So I've been teaching this to men for a little while, and it's what I've experienced this weekend in my group I've been with, and I bet you've experienced it with each other, is that when you're around the masculine, that part of you that usually goes looking to get filled like from women, because that's what movies and music and mythology tell us, go find a woman to be loved. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I've been married 3 times for over 30 years. And I think I could put all the love I experienced from all 3 women in one bundle, and it doesn't match how I feel in one weekend being surrounded by 5 conscious men, 5 open-hearted conscious men. Doesn't even come close. And I'm putting this out there just to get you thinking. You've got a feminine side of you that desires love, that desires to be filled, that desires to receive. And when you go looking to get that from another feminine creature who's also seeking to be filled and loved, and then you wonder why, how come this doesn't work so well? But and my coach John Wineland has a term called husbanding our own feminine. When your masculine is paying attention to your internal needs for love, for connection, for value, and you are giving it, then you are full and overflowing. And as you go to your woman or go to the world, your love, you are love. And it flows to everything and everyone around you. And that is amazingly attractive, by the way. And in my mind, that comes from the masculine. That comes from my masculine consciously loving and meeting the needs of my feminine. And it comes from me being with other masculine conscious creatures. Now, this can be women. My wife has a very strong masculine side. And she acts in ways that are amazingly loving towards me. But if you think about it, you feel loved when somebody does for you, right? Not they just say, "Oh, I love you. See you later." You know. But when like my wife will say to me, this is early on in our relationship, I'm able to like pay all of our bills. She doesn't have to go work a job outside the home. She was in poverty when I met her. She's working hard. She's a hard worker, but she can take care of our home, our kids, and she does so many things. She'll go buy the groceries. She'll go find the repairman to fix this thing. She'll give me manicures and pedicures and trim the hairs on my ears. And you know, early on in our relationship, she would say, "Can I do this for you?" And I'm, no, I don't need it. I'm good. You know, I can take care of this myself. And she finally confronted me and she said, "Listen, you make my world beautiful. You do everything for me." She said, "I can't match that. I can't pay for things like you do. I can't provide things like you do." She said, "Let me do things for you because that's how I can show you how much I love you." Right? That was her masculine saying, "I want to love you and fill you." Right? And then there's a beautiful cycle that is she, you know, her masculine is working with me to help fill me. My masculine is working with her to help fill her. So we have that reciprocal cycle in our marriage, our relationship. And in my experience, I've got to have the foundation of having that with men to do that well with a woman and to even do it well with myself. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it at that. We got 20 plus minutes. And John, you and your team can just maybe read questions to me, or if you want to call on people to ask me, you know, just verbally live or however you want to do it. And, you know, I'll try to give it, you know, everybody 3 or 4 minutes of feedback.
Absolutely. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, there's a few questions that came in. There's one from Jonas. And he asks, "My inner boy, my inner child, takes control in the emotional connection to women and to behave like a small kid. Mm-hmm. How can I get rid of that pattern?"
Okay, well, let's start by saying, and again, I'm going to go with words, and we would need more time to go really into it. But I don't want you to get rid of anything. You know, that's one thing we men think. Oh, I got to get rid of my wife's bad behavior, or I got to get rid of this thing that I do. And that often doesn't lead us forward, because those things we're wanting to get rid of are the things that have gotten our attention. They're the things that, oh, we need to pay attention to this and love it and not judge it, and just go into it. That's kind of the tantric mentality. Let's not judge it. Let's just it is. Let's go into it. So children are feminine by nature because they're helpless. They're vulnerable. They need to be taken care of. So all children are feminine. So that means when we were children, we were feminine. And that's really what initiation is all about, is taking a boy at a certain age where he's been feminine up to that age, been surrounded with women in the nursery, which is great. And at some point, 12, 13, depending on the boy and the culture and the era we live in, again, he goes through masculine initiation and moves out of being primarily feminine energetically to be able to embrace his masculine energy. Now, as I said, we can husband our own feminine. Our masculine can be asking, what does my feminine need? Every morning I get up 7 a.m., let my dog out. I got a 1-year-old pit bull. And so it's just, the tradition is I get up while everybody else is still sleeping. The pit bull and I put on the coffee. We go out back. There's 2 lounge chairs. One of them used to be my wife's, just now the pit bulls. My wife loves to play with that scenario. And I go out, watch the sun come up, listen to birds, see the animals, drink my coffee, meditate, scratch my pit bull on the back of the neck. She just loves being right next to me in the morning. That's to me that's feminine bliss. I'm just soaking it in. I'm receiving. It's filling me. Okay, but my masculine has created that. My masculine set the alarm clock for 7 a.m. My masculine got my ass out of bed. My masculine pushed the button on the coffee maker. My masculine opened up the kennel of my dog. My masculine created the container to let my feminine flow and receive. Okay. So in terms of them, when we're in relationship with feminine identified creatures, let's say that, that you're a guy with a woman, that anytime, you go into a needy place, if there's any polarity, you polarized her, that she's got to go into her masculine and take care of you. And again, many women can do that quite elegantly, but in general, it pretty quickly pisses them off, because they've got this big feminine container that they want flow as well. Now, again, I think in a really healthy relationship is very reciprocal. There's a flow where both are going back and forth. One of you's on top, the other's on bottom, and then you switch it. The other's on top, the other on bottom. Sexually, energetically. So going back to the question, what I would say is maybe, again, tribe is the answer for this, with some initiation to teach you how to husband your own feminine and then give to the woman from your overflow from masculine consciousness and leadership, because leadership is a masculine trait. And again, women can do that, men can do it. But most women I experience, no matter how much they spend in their day in their masculine, which is most of them are a lot, many of them never get the chance to be just led and to relax into their feminine, into their receptive place. And so I think when we go work with men, we can then come home basically and do a better job of leading our partner into her feminine so that she can relax into it, open and be penetrated into the depths of feminine bliss. So again, just kind of a quick answer, but again, I'll bring it back to being around men, being around conscious men who teach us. We receive the love of the masculine, and it teaches us how to nurture our own feminine from our own masculine place.
All right. There's a question from Thomas. He asks, besides connection to men, what is your best daily practice to recharge your masculine energy?
Probably going to the gym. I have a gym in my house, and mainly because if I didn't have it in my house, I might not get there very often. So if I just have to walk out my office into a room where there's, barbells and Olympic weights and TRX and punching bag and spin bike and benches, there's something about having, a bunch of weight up over your head or squatting a bunch of weight that if you go into your feminine place, like you're ruminating or fearful or it's going to fall on you. So I would say doing something physically demanding is right up there. I often talk with guys about creating our great cake of a life. And I'll say that I think there's probably at least 5 key ingredients, at least for me. I don't know if this is true for all men, but one of them is living with purpose and passion. Another is regular strenuous exercise. Our ancestors had challenging lives. We got pretty soft lives. I think we need physical challenge. I think just leaning into challenge in general is essential. Spending time with men is part of that great cake. Some kind of spiritual practice, whether it be meditation, Bible study, Wim Hof, whatever you want to do. And I think giving our gift back to the world is part of that. So 5 or 6 for me key ingredients. But if I want one that gets me out of my feminine in a hurry, I go lift some weights. So that works well for me.
All right. I'm throwing one out there with the nursery metaphor.
Okay.
In your opinion, have powerful men of today's world, like Mark Zuckerberg, have they left the nursery, in your opinion?
Is this karmic? All right. I say this shit anyway. I can say it while it's being recorded. I think Mark Zuckerberg is the spawn of Satan. And I have friends that work for Facebook. I think he's done great evil in this world. And I'm not a fan of Zuckerberg. So I don't know where he's at. He comes across with this smiling opium Mayberry face every time he has to testify in front of some governing board. Says, "Oh, we won't do it again." And then, Microsoft 2 years ago had to pay $5 billion fine to the U.S. for violating the same privacy rules they already said they wouldn't violate. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say about Mark Zuckerberg. I think we're all on a continuum. I still go into the nursery. I still get pouty. I still feel victimy. I still feel done to. And it's a continuum. It's a process. I don't know that we'll ever, get 100%. Maybe we will. Maybe someday I'll be 100% initiated and not whiny or victimy. But again, I try not to judge it. When I go into my, little boy, I've been done to place, I catch it really quick. And I usually call a buddy, and I usually try to just eliminate the storytelling in my head. I just break it down and don't let myself tell stories. So how that relates to Mark Zuckerberg, like I said, I'm not a big fan of social media in general. Again, it can be used for good, but in general, I think it is. I don't think it's real good for men in general. I do some marketing on social media. But I have no friends, absolutely none on Facebook. And I don't have the apps on my cell phone. I don't have any social media apps on my cell phone. But that's just me. And again, I got opinions about it. And some people might like my opinion. There's some thumbs that went up, and other people say, you're an uninformed idiot, which I wouldn't be the first time if somebody told me that. But I also, one thing I've said twice this weekend, I said, I love saying stupid things around smart people. And then the smart people give me more accurate information, and then I become a smarter person. So I will do that multiple times a day. I will say stupid things, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. And I love smart, informed, conscious people that raise my level of intelligence and consciousness too. All right, enough of Mark Zuckerberg.
Thank you. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but D. Naylor asks, you mentioned your wife has always been suspicious of men wanting to be in the presence of other men. How did you deal with this, and how did she get past this?
Well, that's a good question. We're still in process. It's not like we've, okay, it's magic. My wife has been through more trauma in her lifetime than any person should ever have to go through. You can think of any trauma that a young, poor Mexican might go through living in a family of 10 kids in a ghetto with an alcoholic father and no protection from anybody. She's been through it. And she is still the most open-hearted, generous, resilient, loving human being that I know. But she has her trauma. It's ingrained in her emotional nervous system. We all do. We all have our traumas ingrained in our emotional nervous system. And like in many relationships, her trauma gets expressed in ways that triggers my trauma that's ingrained in my emotional nervous system. She says, you're looking at putas, you're looking at women's butts, you're just going with guys to, go drink and do stupid men stuff. And that triggers my trauma. I'm being accused of something I haven't done. I'm a good guy. Yeah. Wah, wah, wah. But the beauty of it is we both know that we trigger each other's trauma, and we both love each other enough to just watch ourselves move through it and do the dance of it, knowing that we're helping each other clear out some really old stuff. So how have I dealt with it? I've dealt with it, number one, by never lying to her. I do not lie to her. I have in many past relationships. That was kind of my primarily mode of being with women, is just don't let them find out anything that might upset them. And but I have no secrets from my wife. Like I said, I have no friends on Facebook, so I have no women on Facebook. I don't flirt with women. We are sexually monogamous. All of my sexual energy stays 100% in the container. I don't look at porn. I don't fantasize. I don't masturbate. Everything I do, if I do it, is with her together. And even with all that, she still can get triggered that she thinks, if I look at my phone, well, I must have a woman in LA. I must have a woman in Seattle. I must have some woman I'm talking to. She knows the code to my phone. I leave it in front of her. If I go to the restroom in a restaurant, I leave it in front of her because I have no fear. I have no fear that anything will ever come up that I will have to come up with some explanation for. So men having no secrets, nothing hidden, is core, because the feminine by nature is untrusting. The feminine by nature is a security-seeking creature that feels vulnerable. The feminine by nature, when it gets scared, will think up the worst possible scenario that might be happening and project that out so that they're prepared for it. Okay. So I have no secrets. I tell her the truth. And I've introduced her to the men that I'm with. She and I have done a few years back a therapy session with my coach, John Wineland. And bless his heart, he did it all in Spanish. It was lovely. And so she thinks highly of him. She's seen I've developed best friends in this program. And when I'm on Zoom with them, if she, is around, I say, come here, say hi to Juan, say hi to, Gregory, say hi to this person. I've had probably at least a dozen of men in my life that are in my men's program in our home in Puerto Vallarta. Like I said, my wife's met many of them in person. I do men's workshops in our home. So my wife gets to see the kind of men I work with, how they are with me, how I am with them. So I've just consistently tried to give her nothing that would ever cause her to have doubt. And number two, just keep introducing her to the men that I'm spending time with. And the running joke is when I'm with the guys, I send her a lot of selfies. Look, I'm really with John. Look, I'm really with Gregory. Look, we're really doing this. And it's just kind of a running joke, but mainly she likes to see the pictures of me anyway. So I just do everything I can to be an open book. One of my mantras is nothing hidden, nothing half-assed. And my wife may always have trust issues. I think the feminine by nature, the feminine in us, has trust issues. And I think that's part of our masculine initiation, is how do we deal with the mistrust of the feminine? Because most of us guys don't want to go through that. But I think it's part of our initiation.
Jörg asks, due to early trauma, my inner source of love seems to dry out and die out, and I go into submission. What do you recommend to overcome these reactions?
Again, using words. When I do like a little presentation around this masculine source of love, feminine is receptive, I got a little diagram, just stick figure diagrams, that we've all got this bucket inside of us. And the feminine, the bucket inside the feminine is a big empty bucket with a hole in the bottom. And so, yeah, it does dry out. That if love is not flowing into the feminine bucket, at least as fast or faster than it's flowing out the bottom. I mean, that's feminine demand. That's feminine neediness. That's feminine. There's never enough. But that's the feminine in us, and the feminine creatures. It's the empty bucket with the hole, seeking more love to flow in. So it really goes back to the principle that I've been talking about. We do need to be constantly filling our own feminine bucket. Now, I think masculine practice is different than feminine practice. Masculine practice is any practice that involves challenge. It might be doing some qigong. It might be doing the martial arts. It might be going to the gym. It might be doing Wim Hof breathing. It could be doing ego eradicators. It could be doing anything that challenges us, right? Sharpens us. That's masculine practice. Feminine practice, on the other hand, is very receptive and fluid in nature. It might be non-linear movement of just feeling in ways that feel good, putting on really sensual music. It might be ecstatic dance. It might be me going into the garden in the morning with a cup of coffee. That's the most sensual thing for me, just a great cup of coffee with my dog next to me. I'm just soaking it in. Hummingbirds flying around, sun coming up, clouds above, birds chirping. It just flows in. I'm a big fan that the more time you can be still in nature, it's very filling of the feminine bucket. Doing nothing in nature. Now, part of the problem we guys have because of our nursery training is that we can't fucking be still long enough to nurture our feminine. We get distracted. We got to get them look at our phone. Well, I might have some text messages. I might have an email. There might be some show on. I got to check to see if that porn site's still there where it was yesterday. We jump up and we're constantly. And so, like, for example, I've made a commitment to myself. I no longer take my cell phone to the bathroom. When I go to the bathroom, it's a urination meditation. I'm going to go. If I'm going to sit there for a few minutes, the phone is out there. It is just still time. Just being still with myself. That's nurturing to the feminine. Okay. So one thing I would say to nurture feminine is consciously work to get rid of the distractions of the pseudo feminine, right? The internet, the social media, the pornography, the fantasy world, the video games, the just avoiding anything of challenge. That's going to leave us really just, it's junk food. It doesn't ever fill us or fulfill us. It just makes us crave more, but it leaves us empty. So just know, daily, your masculine has to fill your feminine bucket. It's flowing out. All these substitutes, feel good in the moment, but they do nothing. They leave us empty. They don't fill it at all. And the other thing is going to a predominantly feminine identified person and wanting them to fill your bucket forces them into their masculine, and they can do it, but they typically get weary of it really quick. That's why a lot of times, like for example, a lot of times men with sex with their partner, they're in this empty place, their bucket's empty, they haven't been filling their own feminine bucket, and then they go to their partner needy, and they here's the inner neediness. I've got my fist here. And over that inner neediness, they put sex. Okay, if I get my wife, girlfriend to have sex with me, then I'll feel okay. We're not thinking all this consciously. It's because my bucket's empty and I haven't filled it. But then we go to our woman with this sexual desire on top of that deep emptiness inside. And most women are highly sensitive to this, just highly sensitive. And they go like this. All they feel is this giant hose. We want to hook up to them to suck out of them to fill us up. And they go like this. And we think, how come she's rejecting me for sex? She's not. She's not rejecting you for sex. She's rejecting that big empty place that you're bringing to her, the void, wanting her to fill through sex. Okay. You want to fuck. To me, sex is always a gift to the feminine. That's just me. I mean, men could argue that. But to me, it's always my masculine penetrating the feminine and fucking her to God, giving her the bliss she can't give herself, taking her places she can't take herself. To me, that's the masculine masterfully penetrating the feminine. That's to me, so I don't ejaculate regularly. Maybe once a month. When I do, it's always a gift to my wife. And she loves it, that keeps me in my masculine penetrating form. So when it comes to sex, I treat my wife primarily as the feminine bucket that needs filled, and it's my job to fill it. Now, of course, during sex, it flip-flops back and forth. She goes into her masculine. She likes doing me. I let her do to me. But it begins with me penetrating. So I don't know if I answered the question. I went a bunch of different directions on it, but hopefully there was something in there that was helpful to the person asking that question.
York said, yes, you did.
Okay, fantastic. I like it when I at least get close.
Bringing it back to the tribe in the last 3 to 5 minutes we've left. Edward asks, how do I lose my fear of men's groups?
That's a good question. I'm glad somebody asked that question, because in No More Mr. Nice Guy, I say in the very beginning of the book, don't try to do this alone. You did not become conditioned to be a nice guy in social isolation. You will not break free from social isolation for a couple of reasons. One is we've internalized a lot of shame, and part of, I think, masculine recovery is releasing our shame with safe people. So we can quit packing that sense of defectiveness and unlovable now. We need safe people to then give us a more accurate reflection of who we really are. You know, we're not bad people. But when I talk, and I talk in No More Mr. Nice Guy, go find safe people. And, you know, this could be a counselor, a coach, a men's group, a 12-step program, a best friend, a minister. And I say, typically it's not your wife or girlfriend or your mother, or family members in general, because 2 reasons. One, these people all kind of have a conscious or unconscious agenda of keeping you in a certain box, of you being a certain way. And we also have a certain fear of revealing too much to these people, wives, girlfriends, family members, whatever, because if they see how bad we are, they're going to reject us and leave us. Okay? So that's where safe people come in. It's the people that aren't going to reject us and leave us. Because we've opened up and revealed our darkness, our shadow, our shame. So we need that. But for a lot of men, because a lot of men tell me, Robert, you know, basically safe men is an oxymoron to them. And I hear so many men say, well, all men want to do, you know, men just want to sit around, objectify women, watch sports, and drink beer. And I'll go, and where's the problem with that? But that's not all men do. That's not at all. I mean, you guys are all sitting here right now. There's 70 plus men on this call, and maybe some of you are objectifying women and watching sports and drinking drinking beer while you do this. But most of you are here because you want to be real and visible and to connect and go deep. I've been doing men's work long enough to know this world is filled with men wanting to do that, and thank goodness nowadays. The world is filled with men's coaches, with men who've trained, who've practiced, who've learned, who've been sharpened, who've been initiated, and they're out there and available to help us do that. So I get that many of us, our fathers might not have been safe. They were unavailable, they're critical, or they're addicted. And often our mothers pointed out our fathers' flaws and pointed out the flaws of men because of their wounds from the masculine, from men. And so all we see is the same view of men that our mothers had, or that fits the model of our father. But going back to Iron John by Robert Bly, he makes a comment in there that we men tend to either put our dads up on a pedestal or down in the gutter. And he said none of our dads were near as good as what we might want to see them as, or near as bad as what we might want to see them as. So I'm a big advocate of men doing their father work, healing their father wound. And that's a powerful emotional process that we need other men to help us do. And what I would say is, if you're afraid of connecting deeply with men, know that you're not alone. Right? That's a pretty common dynamic for most men nowadays. That's why we're uninitiated. We've never been with safe men. And I'm going to say there are a lot of safe men out there. And if you go put yourself out there with a coach, with a men's program, with a weekend retreat, an online group like this, it'll bring up all your stuff. It'll bring up your fears. It'll bring up your patterns. It'll bring up your defense mechanisms. You'll bring up your projections. Anybody here that leads men's work, know that every man you work with is projecting their man issue, dad issue onto you as a coach. Just this weekend, like I said, John Wineland's my coach, and he came and talked to me, and another guy said, oh man, just the projection I'm dealing with right now that so many people are seeing me as bad and needing to come clear that with me. He said, I'm human, you know, and I go, oh, John, I've had a lot of projections with you as well. You know, that's just what happens. But there are processes we can do to move through them, right? And we have to trust the process. We have to trust. And learning to trust, I think, is part of our masculine initiation. Because I think learning to get comfortable being uncomfortable with initiated men means that, oh man, this is scary. Like, for example, the group that I'm in, a lot of guys in here like to do cold plunges. All right. You know, that kind of scares me to, you know, just plunge into cold water. And last year we were up, you know, in the mountains, and I passed. I didn't want to jump off the rock into the cold water. But you know what? All these guys did it. They survived it. They loved on me. They supported me. This year, when we were back in the same mountain stream, I got in it twice. I've gotten in the ocean several times this weekend. By me being with guys I trusted and I saw them living, you know, what scared me, I thought, all right, what one man can do, another man can do. They can do it. I'll survive it. So I've had to learn to trust. Trust me, trust others, trust men. And you will have projections. You will have defense mechanisms. You will have fears. I think that's a big part of men's work, that we go work on our issues with men. And that involves a certain amount of you facing your own fears and willing to be vulnerable and put yourself in scary situations. But that's what initiation is.
That's what initiation is. Robert, how about we cap it off here? These were some beautiful words in the end, bringing us back to what Male Evolution and the Manzine Conference has been having as their themes. And thank you so much, adding your wisdom and knowledge, so much of it and so generously to it. You know, we already have a date for next year, so that's the
I'm
good
excited. I'm excited to be in person with you guys next year. Really, yeah. I'm already counting down to be with you guys in person next year. Thank you for having that open invitation for me.
Thanks so much, Robert.